Let me paint you a picture. A global car show, hundreds of millions of euros in play. Now envision the most expensive stand at the entire event. LED walls, cars rotating on some platform, there's a barista making $10 coffee, and there are models in branded uniforms just to get your attention. And by the end of the week, the marketing director sits and debriefs the status quo. What have we done? What have we achieved? What was the footfall? Nobody cares as much about footfall because it's not the most important metric as an ROI for an event. Hear me out. This thing keeps me up at night because it's not just something that people think about. It's the norm for measuring your success on your event or exhibition, which is unfair. It's now the rule, not the exception. And I've been inside all kinds of activations. And I've been in lots of strategy sessions with a lot of brands, and they all tell me the same thing. They want eyeballs, they want attention, they want to see people come onto their booth and engage with the brand, which is a good thing, of course, but is it measurable in outcome? Is it measurable in emotion or success? Let me break it down to you today. I'm going to give you some frameworks which you can use to see exactly whether you hit your ROI or not on an event or on an exhibition. So the question I want to answer today is, why? Why does this keep happening? And why do people focus on some vanity metric which doesn't tell you the entire story or even compels to show you what the leads are converting to? And why are brands not focused on how they can make people feel, but more on how many people have seen our product? Because if you've seen it, it might not mean that you remember it. And memory is one of the most important things to think about when designing your booth or your concept or whatever. Because people are going to use their memory on the long term to feel the connection with the brand or the product that they've seen. I've seen brands turn one activation into a cultural moment that people talk about years afterwards. And I've also seen companies walk into events with just a small budget, but own the conversion at the end of the event because they did something with brand activation. That's exactly the difference that's going on. The difference isn't about money, it's not about talent, and it's not even about the execution. It's in the thinking. The strategic aspect is very important. If you apply it right before spending $1, you can get success on the long term. And that gap that we're talking about right here is called the experience gap. That's the core message of this episode. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's go! Alright, welcome to Actions Compound, where I'll show you exactly how brand experiences enhance the way people perceive your brand and how it's focused on the longer strategy goals. This show exists because the conversation about brand experiences is broken. It lives in two separate rooms. The creative agencies in one room and the brand strategists in another room. And almost nobody is standing in between these two rooms. Well, that's where I come in. That's my core expertise, and I'm going to give it to you because this is what I love. The first season is called The Experience Gap, and we're going to dismantle the way brands think about experiences and going to give you the frameworks they should be using to get better results. And it's going to be 16 weekly episodes with new information and insights. And today is episode 1, and we're starting out with the uncomfortable truth. Alright, so let me confess. When I got into this industry, I thought the problem was always in the execution. I thought if brands were doing better stands or thought about logistics even more, they would get better results and they might get better leads. But that's not really what's going on. See, execution does matter. Don't misunderstand me, because it's really important to do the right thing and build it up the way it should be working, with heat maps and visual flows, and poor execution definitely destroys all of that. But execution is only a symptom to the problem. The real problem is upstream. It's where you design and think about what you want to achieve. So it lives in the thinking. Let me explain. When most brands begin thinking about an activation, so a trade show or a big event or a product launch or a brand pavilion, it could even be a pop-up. But the first question they ask is, what do we want to show? What products are we featuring? What message do we communicate? What does the space look like? What are we going to build? How high, etc.? And of course, what's the budget? And these are some pretty reasonable questions. They all point inward. We need this intel before we get moving. And they're all also about the brand. They are about what the brand wants to say. But do you even care about the people walking on the other side? The people that are going to see your booth or stand? What are they going to feel? What are they going to experience when they see the brand? Are they going to recognize the brand? Are they going to have a feeling, an emotional feeling? Or What? Because the people that see your stand for the first time, they might not even care. They might not know you. They don't have no clue what you are going to show or tell or expose over there. So make sure it grabs their attention. Because what they care about on a human fundamental level is how your space makes them feel, the emotion, and whether it makes sense to them, whether it respects their intelligence, or even when they feel a storyline, when they want to be immersed into the brand because they feel something is going to add a different layer of interest to them. It's going to make them richer in their mind because they've seen or felt something through the eyes of a brand. Now that's a moment of genuine surprise. And usually these brand managers are in their offices, they don't really know or care what their audience wants. They think they do, but they don't. I once walked onto a show floor and I counted all the brands that had a product on display, and it was the first and only thing that I was drawn to. It was either on a pedestal or it was a big, construction where you had that one product as a hero product, hero SKU, whatever you want to call it. It was 80% of these types of booths. 80%, you know how much that is? That's 1 in 8 stands that just focuses solely on showing a product. No immersion, no feeling, no nothing. And then I watch the visitors, because the visitors are the ones that are going to be converted into clients or leads or potential ambassadors in the future. And these people waited for an hour to be onto in the show. They paid money to visit this show. So you should be having the audacity and the gut feeling and the even empowerment feeling to build something that's going to entice them and make them part of the journey that you're onto as a brand. Don't just showcase your product. But there were always these outliers. That's always the case. It's the 80-20 rule, as we know it. There's 80% of the booths that do 80% of the volume, and there's 20% that do something different, more immersive or brand focused, or maybe even customer focused, which is something that's very neglected. Because even though a stand might be a fraction of the size of their neighbors, if they understand the core principle of enticing a feeling, then the experience is not just about the backdrop or the product or the showcase, it's about the entire experience as a message. Now, why does it keep happening that people tend to build the same stands or create the same type of product or flow? Or why is it that we as brand marketers or marketing teams always think that we need to showcase the product and show the name and make a clear, bold statement about we are the best and this is what we do at each show that we do? And this happens year over year with the same intelligent teams building the same thing over and over again. Well, there are multiple reasons to this occurrence, and they are worth naming clearly because once you name it, you can address it. The first reason is always the organization. Brand experience often sits between departments. Marketing wants to communicate, sales needs the leads, and events needs logistics. But nobody in the room actually does the bold thing and asks, well, what do our customers want or our potential leads? Because if you ask that, well, you usually get one of the other departments is going to fight back at you and say they have a different vision or a different strategy and a different outcome, and they never seem to align. So it's not that nobody cares about the customer, it's nobody wants to own it. And the second reason is a very important one, it's measurement. You cannot measure how many people are going to be converted from a potential visitor, lead, whatever prospect into a full-on client or a long-term contract. It's unmeasurable. That's what we usually say when we build booths. But the thing is not it's unmeasurable. There is data, there's data points, there's so much you can do with all the data you can find if you know how to use it correctly. And I look at the thing that ROI is a big important part in this conversation when you're going to discuss, are we going to build a new booth or are we going to expand or are we going to go to this trade show? The thing that you need to think about is the ROI is always in the brand feeling. Like I said, people have an assumption when they see your brand or product or stand or whatever, and they walk onto it, they experience it and they leave with an emotion. And that's the most important thing that you need to figure out. What is your ROI? What are the emotions we're going to evoke within our probably prospected clients' potential market, or the people that are going to visit? Are they going to be clients in the future? Are they going to buy the car that we are showing? Are they going to buy our new iPhone, which is ever on display? It doesn't matter what the product is. It's all about the emotion. And the third reason for failing is, I think, a very obvious one, but nobody wants to say it. It's fear. People are fearful because they don't want to know what's going on if they don't have control. But if you put a brand strategist or an experiential strategist, the one like I am, where I think about the clients first, into the game of building your stand or your booth, you're going to have a totally different experience. You know, the flow of people coming in, the heat map, so to speak, or what are you going to put on display? What's going to be on the walls? Is it going to be LED walls? Is it going to be like a TV? Is it going to be smoke? Are you going to do something immersive? Is it sound? Is it feeling? Is it movement? These type of things define what your booth is going to look like. Your stand should be different because you want to make people remember. So don't be fearful for change, because change might be a good thing. And if you are bold enough to change, well, you are bold enough to get your clients in because you know how to talk to them, you know how to get them excited about your brand because they come towards you, and you don't have to push them onto your stand because you need more people in because you might get a bigger conversion, because that's not the way it works. Risk aversion is like a mask put on brand consistency. We don't want to risk anything different in our brand experience because we don't want people to think about our brand differently than they already do. But that's just being arrogant, because unless you're Nike, probably 60% of people out there don't know your brand, even though you think 99% of people knows your brand name, which is definitely not true unless you're Nike. So now let me define the experience gap properly. The experience gap is the gap between what the brand intends to activate in its communication and what the visitor actually walks away with. And it sounds super simple, but it's not. It's not simple. Look at your own brand. Look at your own company where you work right now. What do people perceive about your brand? If you're at a birthday party and you explain, I work at et cetera company and this is what we do they know what you do? Do they have a feeling about your product, or do they have an emotion? Because an emotion, just like I mentioned, is the core principle of building a strong brand. I just mentioned Nike, but think about Nike. What does it do with you? What does it do with your body or your mind when you think about Nike? Do you see that runner, or do you see Kobe Bryant, or do you see LeBron James, or do you see Tiger Woods, or do you see a product which is made of foam and a rubber sole and a very good lining? What is it? So the gap can be enormous, even when the execution is technically perfect. You can have a flawless build, you can have a great team on the stand, you can have a beautiful space with great lighting, but you can still have a massive experience gap because the intent was wrong all the way at the beginning. It's a strategic problem. It's in the brief at first. So let me walk you through a typical brief and one that's really actually good. A typical brief says, we are attending at IAA in Munich. We have 600 square meters and we're launching our new electric SUV. The key messages are sustainable, premium, performance. And the target audience, well, it's usually press and some minor EV enthusiasts. The budget is X. A good brief says, we are attending an IAA in Munich. Our ambition is to show every visitor who spends more than 5 minutes on our booth leaves with a specific feeling. This brand understands how it feels to live and drive in the future, and they create it. The launch of this new SUV is the vehicle for this feeling. You get pun intended, vehicle, you got it? Yeah. So the key question for every design and every brief following is, does this deepen or distract from the feeling we want to evoke? Do you hear the difference between the first and the second brief? In the first brief, the visitor is always thought out at the end. The brief is all about its internal agenda, about showing the product, and that's it. In the second brief, the visitor's experience is the brief. The product serves that experience, not the other way around, even though it's about the product. Now that's where it gets interesting. Because the brand experience isn't fixed in size, it's not a constant. It changes with several variables, and if you understand those variables, well, then it's going to give you leverage in creating a different outcome. The first variable is clarity of intent. The sharper and more specific your brand intent is, or I should say your experience intent is, the feeling that's being designed for actually, makes the gap smaller. Vague intent produces a strange outcome, which also creates a lot of room for experience gap. We want people to feel impressed is so vague, it could be for any brand, for any product, which means nothing. But if you were to write a good brief, it should be, we want people to feel like they just witnessed the future, and we're going to embrace these people. And that's something you can design for. And the second variable is audience understanding. Who's the audience coming to this IAA or whatever show? It's not about personas, it's about the real, actual visitors. Understand why they are there. What's the context that they have in mind when they walk into the show? Why are they waiting? Why are they traveling for 5 hours to visit just this show? And that has more to do than just the buyer persona or the visitor persona. It has more to do with their intent. What are they hoping to experience? And where does the gap lie for you to create something in that gap? I say gap a lot because it's out there. And of course, what do they know or believe about your brand? And what do we want to shift? Is it good? Is it the way we want to let them experience our brand again? Or should we change it? Spice things up a little bit. If we can surprise them, we can make them understand that we are evolving, and it leaves them with a great impression or even more trust, which at the end of the day, if you were there to visit a car show and you get to see the new future of cars and you feel that this is a trustworthy brand that has a great vision, you might be enticed to buy one or take a test drive or visit the showroom or heck, I don't know. And the third thing is coherence. Every touch point in the experience, the architecture, the lighting, the sound and the team, the products, the copy, whatever, it should all be coherent. And when they all point or vision the same North Star when it comes to emotion, you are building something magical. But when one thing breaks, you are breaking the spell. It doesn't work anymore. So yes, logistics is in place. Thinking about the hospitality is very important, but all the things combined together bring this one true concept to work or to life. And it works positively and negatively. Good experiences compound, but poor experiences also compound. If you were to walk into a sports shop and you're trying out new running shoes, again, the Nike shoes, because you know Nike is the running brand that you want to go to. So you fit your Nike shoes and you have a great experience with the salesman and he's very kind, whatever, and he brings the shoes to the counter where you meet this grumpy old lady who's giving you a bad experience, remember, and you're leaving the store with this feeling that this grumpy lady didn't actually want to help you. She just wanted to give you the bag and say, bye-bye, I don't want to see you because it's my end of the day and I need to go home and whatever, my sucky life. That's what you're going to remember. You're going to leave that store with a product in hand, no matter what brand or store or whatever you were in. You're going to leave with a product in hand, which you were very excited about, and now you're gonna be a little bit less motivated or maybe even a little bit, sidelined because, well, she was grumpy. That's not the feeling I wanted at the end of the day. You wanted to go home, put these shoes on as soon as you can and go for that run. That's the feeling that you came into the store with and you're not leaving with it. But if the salesman who gave you the shoes and helped you out exactly with showing you the differences and whatever, if he were the one who brought it to the counter and then said, goodbye, have a lovely run, I'd love to see you again, and let me know how things were, and blah, 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 yada, 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 that's the feeling you're going to leave with. And the next time you need shoes, socks, whatever, some kind of gear, guess where you're going to? You're not going to Amazon. Well, you might because it's cheaper, but you're going for that experience again. So retail has this same formula. Car showrooms have the same formula. Events have the same formula. Exhibitions have the same formula. It's all about the brand consistency, the experience consistency, and then the experience enticing feeling that you get when you do this. Doesn't matter what it is, actually. And that's why I talk about the experience gap. And let me be honest, I know the experience gap is out there because I see it on a daily basis. And when you think about it, you will see it. So I charge and challenge you to go to some store or whatever and think about the brand experience gap that you are seeing, witnessing, whatever. And if you know how to recognize this, well, you now know how to use it to your advantage in your next meeting or in your next product launch meeting, design brief, whatever. You're going to take this information with you, and I'm going to give you a framework which you can use to showcase the brand experience gap and then close it. Narrow it down, even though it's 30%. It's going to make a difference for your audience. It's going to make a difference for your brand perception, and it's going to make a difference in your brand's growth. And that's what realism looks like. And I'm just here to tell you that the brand experience gap is a strategy first thing. Let's talk about how we can close it. And over the course of this season, the 16 episode arc that we got laid out for you, I'm going to give you multiple frameworks, but the brand experience gap is the one that leads with it. And to show you how this works, I'm not just going to give you the framework. I have another episode which is called The Breakdown. It's a separate show also on the same channel. It's coming out every Friday, where I'll give an example to a brand that does exactly this and how they close the brand experience gap. This Friday, it's going to be about Red Bull. And if you think you know everything about Red Bull, I dare you to challenge my thinking. And please listen and join to see how the brand experience gap was closed by Red Bull over the last couple of years. So make sure to follow and subscribe to this channel or this podcast if you're listening in your car, or if you're on the road, or you're doing your laundry, something like that. All right, so the framework itself is going to consist of 4 components. Component 1 is called intent definition. Before you design anything, before you pick a contractor or you brief with an architect, and before you open a budget spreadsheet, you need to be able to answer this question. And by answering it, I mean with laser-focused precision. By the end of this experience, each visitor will feel emotion. And this is so much harder than it sounds, I know. And most teams can generate an entire list of messages they want to communicate, like sustainability, innovation, premium, human, you name it. But feeling and messaging are not the same thing. A feeling is very specific. It is sometimes physical, and it's the thing people reach to when they try to describe an experience, or if they want to talk to a friend next door and tell them exactly what they meant. And if you cannot answer that question with a laser-focused answer, or complete the sentence, so to speak, so not a list or not even a paragraph, your intent is not yet defined. You need to go back to the drawing board, because without defined intent, every downstream action is just a guess. And assumptions are the mother of all fuck-ups. Component number two, audience reality mapping. Because once you know the feeling you're designing for, well, you need to understand who you are designing for. What does your visitor already believe about the brand when they arrive on your stand or show? Because they come in with some history. Every brand has a perception, whether it was designed or accumulated over time by actions or movements, or just by default because public. And your experience either confirms or challenges that historic belief. It might even deepen their perception. And if you do not know what the perception is, you're just assuming again rather than investigating. And that's going to set you up for failure too. Because audience mapping is the practice of understanding the current perception baseline, the emotional context of the audience at that moment, and the competing stimuli that they are facing, and the questioning they have when they see your brand. Because every visitor has a question. Every buyer has a question at the show. It might be, is this brand still relevant with the change in EV vehicles? Can I trust this brand by doing something that matters for a sustainable future? Does this brand actually understand my culture or my behavior? Or is it just all marketing fluff? And these are very different questions than you might have thought about before. But if you take those questions into account, well, you now know what your audience is looking for. And the third component is coherence of touch points. Like I mentioned before, are those touch points all the same? Do they evoke the same exact feeling physically? Does it feel like it's part of the bigger brand? Does it feel when you come onto the booth that you are being taken on a journey in this world where the materials are going to be sustainable just as the car is? How about the coffee and the flooring and the lights and the LED walls, whatever? Does it all attract the same feeling? Does it all provoke the same strategy? Or does it make you feel part of this journey? How about the demo or the conversation you are having? What are people telling you? What's the feeling you as a visitor take home? It's the operational layer you need to think about in the brief, or before the brief actually, to make sure that it all comes together. And as a bonus tip, think about the gift you're going to give these people. Are you going to, give them a freebie like a notebook or a bag or something boring? Or you're not going to give anything at all, which might be a very good thing if you can give them proper information, which makes them feel emotion about your brand instead of some cheap giveaway thing that they're going to give their kids and it's going to end up in some drawer and in 5 years they're going to throw it away because what was that for? So think about that too, because if you can give a great giveaway, something that matches your brand, like sustainability, you're gonna give some bag that's biodegradable and whatever. Give it a good story, make it coherent. That was the previous number, but bring it all together. Now you have great touch points. And the touch point is a vote toward confidence or gut feeling that people have about your brand, or the feeling that they have about the entire product line or the launch or whatever. So Touchpoint Coherence isn't about perfection, it's about alignment, making sure it all does the same purpose. It all follows the same strategy, or all goes to the same endpoint, touchpoint, North Star, whatever you want to call it. And if you know that the question is, does this serve the intent as we intended? And the answer is yes. Well, now you're on the right path. This is the great way you should be going into. This is the direction the brand's going to take on this event or on during this fair or show or whatever. But if the answer is no, or maybe, well, you need to, pivot a little bit, make it sharper, make it better, or, say no to some things. And then the fourth and final component, post-experience. Wow, this is a good one. Post-experience momentum. So after you've gone home from this show, you'll be in the car or on a plane or whatever, and you'll talk to your neighbor who might be a partner or might also be a colleague, or maybe somebody you've never even met before. And they all have the same experiences, right? They've seen different brands, or they felt something with each and every topic that they visited, or whatever might be the showcase. But if they are on the way home, just like you, and you talk about, hey, I saw this great thing on show, and it was a showcase where they were talking about sustainability in furniture to have a better sustainable future for construction or whatever. Could be any topic. They probably might have seen the same show, booth, or stand or whatever, and they might have a different feeling. They could say, well, I was there, but I didn't talk to anybody because there was nobody available, or it was just way too crowded, or I couldn't see what it was all about. Looked terrible, or there was bad lighting, or it was too crowded. I just skipped it. Okay, that's the experience gap. Right on. But if they have the same feeling when they're saying, well, I really saw the same thing and I was really, I liked it and they had a good story, and this is the post momentum. This is the moment where you can build on your brand in the future. If you leave people with a great impression, like the salesperson in the Nike shoe store I was telling you earlier about, you can make sure that the discussion continues for longer. Because if people mirror themselves to you and they have the same feeling about this brand or about this product or whatever, and they can get that motivation and conversation going, or even the conversation about the motivation to potentially buy this, you've got a great, magnificent potential buyer. Because if they mirror they're talking, or if they mirror their story to a different person, and they will mirror it in the future, in the next weeks or months. And that's the practice of designing an experience to make people think about it later on in the experience, or later on when they travel or go home. So generate stories that people want to tell in the future. That's what it's all about. And if you have some kind of touch points, like a digital trail of these people who visit your stand, or if you have something to give away, which they can use, like scan a QR code and win something or whatever, those are the marketing activations. But you can actually enhance their experience even more by giving something back in the future. So if your goal is to showcase the new SUV, which is going to be an electric, all natural, sustainable, blah, 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 yada, 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 great product, and you focused your experience around this sustainability, future well-being of Earth kind of vibe, you can actually use this in all your marketing materials, in your entire brand. You can just add it as a different layer in your current marketing stream or content pillars or whatever. Your company should use the benefits of creating this brand experience on site as their new marketing material strategy. They can use it as a different stream, because potential future buyers that are not buyers yet but visited your stand for whatever reason, and they want to be in touch with the brand, they might not buy now, but they might buy in 5 years or whatever. You want to make sure that you follow up on the same footpath as you did before, the same vision, the same touch points, the same coherence as you have had on that experience itself. So it's not about just giving them something, it's about giving them a story which they can take home, and you can later use to your advantage to build out that brand even more. So where does it leave us? Wow, this has been a long episode, I know, and I hope you liked it and subscribed already, because we opened with a picture, a world-class activation, some enormous budget. I was talking about the car launch, and what does it evoke in people? That's the core question. That's the emotional thing. That's part of the aspect of creating a brand experience. And I've seen so many of these brands do this already. I've been into the trenches with building brand experiences or brand activations or creating brand strategy as in general. But the brand experience gap is the most measurable gap between intent and action. That's definitely the way I would look at it. So creating an impact is very important, but if you have the wrong brief at first, you're going to set yourself up for failure. So what a brand designs, what their outcomes should be, and also what the visitor should actually feel is all part of creating something great towards your experience. And that's why I created this show, because I want to give you more insights and more intel about how these brand experiences are existing and are created, or where they are living right now in features and in teams and in groups and in design and then in concepting and then in building and then in audience mapping. All these insights I'm going to give to you because it's going to bring your event or your experience to a higher level. And if I were to just give you a 10% information nugget, which is going to help you create something new or move the brand forward, move the needle, so to speak, man, that'd be great for me. And I surely hope that you will follow me along, because I'm going to show you all the insights that you need to get to that point. For now, that was it. Next week, I'll be back with another episode. We'll dive deeper and deeper in the next few weeks. And like I mentioned before, on Friday, I have the breakdown where I take one brand or one experience and I'll give you exactly what they did and how they measure the ROI, etc. It's way more in depth, but on a scale that you've not seen before. So hope to see you soon. Thanks.